Hey guys, it's Devin Wickline, and I just wanted to reach out and talk a little bit about what we do with Freedom Properties. So quite a few years ago, I was looking around the market. I've been in property for over 8 years, and I was looking for someone who knew the market, could predict the market on a consistent basis, and who could help to mentor me in my own property journey. And I came across Liana, who's now my business partner and mentor, and she was different for quite a few reasons. So number one, she was an actuary. There's only about 2,000 of those across Australia. And for those of you that don't know, because I didn't when I first started, an actuary is kind of like a mathematician on steroids. So her job is to predict the future. She used to work for companies like Suncorp and insurance agencies, where they used actuaries to work out what the risks were going to be and how much to charge and what the costs would be to make sure that they were making a profit. So essentially, Liana has taken that same model and applied it to the property market. So I'm just going to talk a little bit today about why Freedom's different. Not sure if you can see the pink up the top there, but I'll walk you through it. So the first is group buying. So what we do is we've got quite a few investors in our group, and because we've got that buying power, we can go to a developer and say, hey, we've got 20 people who'd like a lot on your development, and we can negotiate a better price and also generally some extras. So whether they're upgrading appliances or putting in extra things, we negotiate that directly with the developer. So quite a few people ask how we get paid. And what we've done is we've cut the real estate agent out of the equation. So in a normal circumstance, a developer would pay a real estate agent to sell the lots that he's developing to the end customer. So what we've done is become the real estate agent, and the developer then pays us the commission he would traditionally give to the real estate agent for us bringing in property investors. The second thing is research. So we only invest in properties that have a high capital growth and a high rental yield. So we've got a 16-point checklist, which is very specific about things that the property we're looking at needs to meet in order for us to invest there. So our research approach is very much a top-down approach. We first of all look for the suburb where we see that things are undervalued and underpriced, and where all of those 16 points, things like supply and demand and the growth, supply of jobs, infrastructure, all sorts of different things that we look at. The next one is for all of our current clients, we set them up with a custom plan. So it's really important when you're looking at planning anything really, you've got a plan of where you want to go and you know how to get there. So a lot of our clients, we kind of equate most properties to, once they're paid off, which we call unencumbered, we equate that to about $25,000 generally a year as far as the rental yield and return, just as an average to kind of work out. So if someone is looking to make $100,000, then they would be looking at 4 properties once they were unencumbered to make that income. So the other thing we do is long-term support. So we're very much in it for the long haul. I can't say that there's any customers I know that once they've bought their first property haven't come back for their third, fourth, fifth. We've got some clients who are up to their 15th property. So we're very much in it for the long haul. We're there to help guide you and direct you. And that leads me to the next point, which is access to the team of professionals. So quite often we will recommend either lawyers or conveyancers that we use. A lot of our properties have already built in the person who's going to manage the property, which is great because it means a lot less stress on your shoulders of working that out. And yeah, that access to the team of professionals I think is quite valuable because it means that You're not hunting around, not knowing who to go to. You've got people that we use and work with every day. So the next point that I wanted to talk about was how our strategy works. So generally, when people buy their first property, they have a deposit generally of 10 to 20%. So that's the deposit chunk just there. And then the rest they go for a loan from the bank. And one of the most powerful things in the Australian property market is our power to leverage. So I don't know if you've heard the term OPM or other people's money. That's the bank's money. So by leveraging that money from the bank, you can use it to accelerate your portfolio and grow it a lot faster. So research is a very big piece to this, because if your property that you purchase is not well researched and doesn't grow quite quickly, or even if you're waiting around kind of 10 years for your property to grow, 7 to 10 years, then your capital's kind of just sitting there and not really doing much for you. So that's why research is such an important component, because knowing where the market is going to have a quick blip up and being able to access that money, pull it out tax-free, taking that money out and popping it in a deposit for your next property is absolutely invaluable. And there's nowhere else in the world that this happens except for Australia, which is pretty cool. So you've got your first property here. So you've got your deposit and your loan, as we spoke about. And then within 12 months, generally we suggest that you revalue the worth of your asset, your first property. And your mortgage broker, either that you use or one that we can connect you to, can help you do that. And then what we do is, once they've revalued the loan, the difference, so if you look from this one, we've got deposit loan, you've got equity here now sitting at the top. So that's the amount that your asset has grown in the last 12 months because of the really extensive research that we do. So we suggest that people then take that equity from property number 1 and roll that down into a deposit for their second property. So now you've got the equity as your deposit and your loan again for property number 2. Then 12 months later, we then revalue both property number 1 and property number 2. And we take that chunk of equity out on both properties that's grown over the last 12 months. So here you've got equity 1-2, I've put it, because this is the second time you're pulling equity out of your first property. Because of that research that has that exponential growth. And in your property number 2, this is the first time you're pulling out your equity in this one. So both of those then together come down here to give you lots of opportunities. Quite often, most of our investors, especially when they're starting out, generally in their first kind of 1 to 4 properties, will just keep on reinvesting to be able to roll over that money and get it grow faster. So you can reinvest, and that would give you a deposit for definitely property number 3 and possibly property number 4. And it could also, on another route, give you some cash flow, or you could just combine the two. So it could give you cash flow and a deposit for a second property. So there's lots of different ways that you can compound that money and really use leverage in the Australian market.